Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode, before ranking each episode against each other. Today's episode is Criminal Minds, Season 1, Episode 13, Poison. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of what happened in the episode. So basically, this episode begins with a father and son in their car, and the father starts hallucinating and sees a monster and beats it up, which then the next morning the police arrive and find out it was actually his child he was beating up and that he and many others had been poisoned. The team is of course called in, and while they are looking for a connection between these victims, they realize that they've all eaten at a certain restaurant, so they at first assume that the restaurant is the place that they were poisoned. However, after some further digging, they realize that the cafe actually wasn't the origin, and so they then figure out that it was actually a bank, which leads them to a Lynn Dempsey who was at the bank. And they see on the security tapes that every single person who was poisoned was at the bank, and it looked like they were getting candy. However, as they continue the investigation, Lynn Dempsey dies of botulism after saying the N, which at first they think means the end, but later reveals that they actually meant the envelopes, and that this was to test the distribution method of the poison, which is LSD and Rohypnol in the original, but then botulism is what Lynn Dempsey dies of. They then manage to track down Edward Hill, who is, of course, the killer, and they find him by finding out that his company stole a patent from under him before he could patent his own work. And not only did they steal his idea, patent it as their own, they also then basically downsized him, took 2/3 of his salary as well as his health insurance away, and that is what he is avenging against the company. And once they find him, they're surprised he doesn't take his own. Once they start talking to him, he then leads them to a punch bowl at a company party, which is infected with botulism, but it seems too small as they're all low-level workers. And that is when the team realized that he actually poisoned himself, so he did, as they suspected, take his own life, or attempt to at least. His status is, I don't think, confirmed at the end of the episode. And it's revealed that Lynn Dempsey, who was his accomplice, was helping him with the retreat of the higher executives. We then see the higher executives at the retreat licking envelopes for one of the games that they're deciding to play. And then we see the police and FBI coming, and they're all sick, and they manage to make it just in time by realizing that the executives were the true targets all along. And then on the plane ride home, Aaron Hotchner tells Jennifer Giroux why he chose the BAU as his port of call for the FBI, or whatever the case may be. Anyways, point is, that's what happened in the episode. So now that we've been reminded about what happened in the episode, we'll now rank the episode, and as always, we'll rank first on the mostly objective ranking, followed by the personal ranking. Mostly objective ranking, we have our single episode supporting character introductions, and this is Edward Hill and Lynn Dempsey, his accomplice. And then we have a multi-season main character development, which is the fact that Hotchner is a lawyer, and specifically he was a prosecutor. And the reason that he chose to join the BAU is that he wanted to stop the cases before they reached his desk, as by the time they reached his desk, he felt like it was already too late. So he basically wanted to be part of the solution, not the cleanup crew after the problem is solved. And then, of course, we have -4 because this episode ultimately was unmemorable. Not necessarily because of the concept, but because I'm pretty sure I blocked it out for a reason. Anyways, that brings this episode to a 2 out of 10. And our mostly objective ranking is in first, extreme aggressor, natural born killer, compulsion, The Popular Kids, The Fox, Derailed, Blood Hungry, What Fresh Hell, LDSK, Plain Sight, Broken Mirror. This episode came in 12th, Poison, followed by Won't Get Fooled Again. Now, I mentioned it was unmemorable probably for a reason, and that reason is probably I blocked it out because I didn't enjoy this episode at all. As anyone who's watched this channel for a significant period of time might know, the successful emotional impacts for me typically involve sweet family moments because family and family values are incredibly important to me personally, hence why they are the ones that get me. This episode started with a father nearly killing his child under the influence of this guy's drugs, and then this guy drugged all these innocent people that had nothing to do with him for the stupidest reason ever, because he wanted to test his weapon before he used it against the people who actually, in his mind, deserved it. And he didn't care about all the damage in his wake, and it was just like, ugh, like truly ew behavior. You know, like revenge, if you want to get revenge because you feel somebody wronged you, and then you go after the person who wronged you, I still think you probably shouldn't, but at least to a certain extent, it's understandable. You know, hurt people. There's the old adage, an eye for an eye leaves the whole world blind. The revenge best served cold, so on and so forth. Like, revenge is something that is human nature. People are going to try it. So if you are wanting revenge and you're going after the people who deserve that revenge, at least in your mind, then there's a certain level of understanding there. In this case, though, he went after innocent people, people who never harmed him, people he didn't know, people whose lives have been devastated, potentially ruined. There was another child who was in a coma because of something that this drug did to them. Another woman who basically ended up with her boyfriend intimately, who had no intention of being with him intimately because she was under the influence of the drugs, and then woke up and was, obviously terrified and didn't know what happened. Like, innocent people who never did anything wrong, never did anything to him, devastated, lives ruined, in comas, one died, all because this guy wanted to test his delivery method before going after the people he actually wanted to go after, instead of just going after the people he wanted to go after and leaving the innocent people alone. It bothers me so much when people do that. Like, I know most people are cowards, and that's inevitable, that sometimes they'll go for the easier target than the real target, and that just makes it even more of a dislikable behavior. But ultimately, hated this episode, hated this unsub, hated this concept. I did not like it at all, and it hit me where it hurt because I do not like when families are harming each other, because I like sweet moments between families. That's where my emotional response is successful. I do not like people harming their families, even under the influence. I just think it was crap all around. I did not enjoy it. As I said before, I gave it a 1, and not only a 1, spoiler, I put it in last place because I dislike it that much. So in first on our personal ranking, we have Derailed, Compulsion, Plain Sight, Extreme Aggressor, The Popular Kids, Natural Born Killer, What Fresh Hell, The Fox, Blood Hungry, LDSK, Won't Get Fooled Again, Broken Mirror, and in 13th, Unlucky 13, Poison. This episode. Hated it. Which brings us to our series ranking so far, and on our mostly objective ranking, it increased by 2 to 74 out of 220, and then the personal ranking increased by 1 to 52 out of 220. And with that, we've now rewatched and ranked Criminal Minds Season 1, Episode 13, Poison. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.